Welcome back to the show. In the first part of the episode, we talked a lot about the family as a whole and the spouses, how they're impacted by deployment. Now we're going to focus in and talk about the children and how their lives change. With us now, live, is Mrs. Kelly Hruska. She's from the National Military Family Association and actually a Navy spouse herself. Welcome to the program today. Thanks for being a part of it, Kelly.
Hi, Jan. How are you?
Good, good. We want to get right into it and ask the most basic question. What are deployments like for children?
Well, as Desiree said, it's different for every child at every stage of life, during every deployment, and no two children react the same. Recently, along with the RAND Corporation, we did a study on the effects of deployment on children, and it was a pilot study, and it really brought out some interesting issues.
Well, feel free to talk about those, Kelly. I was going to bring up the study myself. Do they get into how children cope with these things and signs to look out for?
Yeah, what we looked at was we studied both the reaction of the child and the reaction of the caregiver, because you have to remember the American family has changed dramatically. And so we're no longer just looking at, a two-parent household. In many cases, we have single service members with children, and many times their caregiver is a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. So it's important to remember that. But what we looked at was we found that children reported that deployments influenced and altered the behavior of their home caregiver, which was very interesting. And that varied by the service component. It also varied by the number of deployments. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. We got a bit of delay here. So when you say that, you mean their caregivers' behavior was altered, so therefore they knew something was array in the house, like things had changed, so they adapted and their behavior changed as well?
Exactly. Like what we found was reserve component families. And when I say reserve component, I'm talking about National Guard and reservist members. They identified more difficulties with their parents' readjustment after the parent returned from deployment, whereas children of active duty personnel expressed more anxieties about their caregiver during deployment. And they also, children of active duty also seem to cite more problems with schoolwork.
No, I think that makes sense. You talk about the reserve and National Guard component, and a lot of times those members are pulled from jobs and scattered communities across the United States, whereas your active duty are pulled out of a base. I think that the base is set up and more used to the flux of people leaving on deployment and coming home, and so the society there kind of adapts to that better. So what advice can you give to communities that are impacted by reserve and Guard deployments? People in those communities, teachers or whoever it may be that interacts with children.
Just really be sensitive to the kids. If you see students are having difficulties, having problems, talk to them, find out, do they have a parent who is deployed that could be having some effect. Medical personnel as well should be sensitive to those changes. They may see some behavior difficulties, not necessarily behavior, but just be open to talk with kids.
Yeah, so just be aware that there may be a major change going on in that child's life, huh?
Exactly.